If you're a founder of a scaling startup and you have this feeling that you're working more and more while your to-do list never gets any shorter, then this episode is for you. My name is Agnieszka Jurczyk. I work with founders of fast-growing businesses who are looking for a way to keep pace with that growth without burning out along the way. In today's episode of Founder to Zero, I'll tell you why at a certain stage of startup growth, delegation starts to break down, and how to get your time back without losing control over the direction your business is heading. Let's go, shall we? Daniel pulls into the underground garage and kills the engine with a trembling hand. The 60 minutes in bumper-to-bumper traffic weren't enough to leave behind the meeting he's just come from. The raised voice of their key client's marketing director is still echoing in Daniel's head. That live product demo, which they'd paid through the nose for, was supposed to be the launchpad for a long-awaited promotion. It turned out to be nothing more than complete humiliation in front of the board. The guy probably won't get promoted, and Daniel, he can at best dream of renewing the contract that was supposed to cover half of their R&D costs next year. Daniel still sees the scene playing out in slow motion, on loop, with no off button anywhere in sight. He takes one slow breath and freezes because the sales guy's face is already pressed against his windshield, fogging up the glass like a golden retriever with a quarterly quota. Daniel sighs and steps out of the car. Sales guy slides in next to him immediately, matching his walk towards the elevator. "Daniel, quick one," he says. Founders know what this means. "Good morning, your day is ruined." "Global Corp wants a deeper discount," he says, "and faster onboarding. Delivery says we can't meet their date, but trust me, if we lose this deal, they're gone." The elevator door opens, and like a summoned demon, the head of delivery steps inside. "Oh no, do not approve that deal. Daniel, I'm begging you. Sales promised a timeline we cannot hit. If we take this on, the whole pipeline goes up in flames." Sales raises his eyebrows like it's theater. Delivery glares like it's war. The elevator door closes. "Oh, and one more thing," the sales guy says. "I need you to approve a client dinner tonight. 300 euros cash. Last time they paid, so, it's kind of our turn." Daniel stares at the floor number panel like it might save him. Ding! Next floor. The elevator opens and in slides the product owner. Laptop open like a shield, already talking before the door fully opens. "Daniel, that roadmap you asked me to prioritize, look, I need some direction. We have 372 tickets. Half are customer issues, some are bugs pretending to be features, and the rest, well, honestly, I have no idea what they even are." They walk out into the hallway. Product owner keeps pace and pressure. "I can make decisions, no problem, but every direction is a trade-off. Every trade-off means someone will be furious, and you know what happens when someone's furious. They come straight to you. We need to set some rules, you know what I mean." Daniel doesn't even have time to answer. Daniel, the head of customer success, jogs up from behind. "That escalation from Century Bank, you delegated it to me, but product says it's not a bug, ops says it's definitely a bug, delivery says it's a process issue, and finance says it ruins our margins. And every single one of them sent me back to you." "So what did you do with it?" Daniel asks, even though he already knows the answer. What do you mean what I did? I came to you." Of course. They reach the glass door to the open space, and there, waiting with the patience of a frustrated saint, is the new CFO. The Series A investor had been immovable. If Daniel hadn't agreed to bring her in, the last round would never have happened. Daniel spent 3 months practically begging her to join. "Morning, Daniel," she says calmly. But that calm of hers has never once meant anything good. "I've talked to the accounting, delivery, sales, product, and every person gave me a different version of who's responsible for what. None of it matches the accounts structure. None of it matches how decisions are actually made. We'd agreed I'd sort out the reporting, and in order to do that, we need to establish who's actually accountable for what, because everyone here has their own version of reality, and I am not going to guess." Daniel feels that familiar tightening in his stomach. Even she, the adult in the room, can't move an inch without him. But it could be different. Picture the same underground garage, same parking spot, same car. But this time, nobody is pressed against the windshield. Daniel steps out and walks towards the elevator at a normal human pace. Not hunted, not cornered. He gets in, and no one chases him. No one ambushes him. At lobby level, sales guy steps in. "Hey, good news! Globocorp accepted the revised offer. Delivery and I aligned yesterday. First invoice, still this month." Daniel blinks, surprised they'd sorted the deal so quickly. The elevator opens and product owner steps in. No laptop this time, no visible stress. "How's that roadmap update?" Daniel asks, mostly to fill the silence. "Done last week. We shifted 3 priorities based on the new strategy. Summary is in your inbox, no action needed." They walk out into the hallway. The head of customer success passes by, coffee in hand, actually smiling. "You seem cheerful today," Daniel says. "Oh, remember that Century Bank thing?" Daniel nods, though he barely recalls the issue. "We finally found the root cause, a typo in the code, would you believe it? Anyway, all sorted." Daniel feels something unfamiliar. Lightness. Near the glass door, the CFO joins him. Morning. Calm. Neutral. No crisis lurking between the lines. "The reporting structure is almost done," she says. "The only open point is ownership of churn. No volunteers. I'm not surprised. But everyone has reasonable arguments. I've outlined 3 possible approaches. Pros, cons, and my recommendation are in your inbox." Daniel opens the door to his office. "Come in. Walk me through the options. Let's get this closed today." Before we go further, a quick ask. If what I'm talking about here resonates with where you are right now and you'd like to hear more, hit subscribe. A thumbs up on this video would also mean a lot. In return, I'll keep making more content about how to scale a business without losing your mind along the way. Thank you for every bit of support. I have 3 quick questions for you. Just answer them honestly. How many decisions in the last 2 weeks came back to you because someone wasn't sure, even though it was technically their area? How many times did you step into a topic that someone on your team is theoretically running because it was just faster this way? And if you disappeared for 2 weeks, no internet, no laptop, no phone, what percentage of your company would get stuck on a problem that can't be solved without a founder's call? If the answer to even one of those wasn't 0, something's going on. And that's completely normal. For the vast majority of founders at the fast growth stage, the answer to these questions are numbers significantly above 0. And that's exactly what we're dealing with today. The truth is, almost every founder, sooner or later, says some version of this. I do delegate. People just don't deliver. So if I don't step in, things simply don't happen. Sounds reasonable until you look closer, because here's what that familiar pattern actually looks like in practice. You tell someone what needs to be done. Maybe you add, just ping me if you need anything. They nod, sometimes even with enthusiasm, and disappear. And you breathe with relief. For how long exactly? 3 hours? Then you open Slack or WhatsApp, and there it is. Quick question, followed by 19 screenshots, 0 context, and a feeling of dread so specific it could probably have its own diagnostic code. 2 days later, the task comes back to you, usually wrapped in an innocent question. Could you just take a look? I'm not 100% sure. And here's the punchline. You say yes. Every single time. Not because you want to, not because you have time, but because the cost of it going wrong feels higher than the cost of doing it yourself. So you sit down at 1 in the morning with cold pizza and quiet resentment for company. And the worst part? Investors praise funder hustle, especially the early stage ones. In another episode, we'll cover why that works in their favor. Your team thanks you for jumping in. In a way, it suits them too. And we'll come back to that as well. Every time you save the day, you reinforce the exact system that's currently eating you alive. Because this might look like delegation, it might smell like delegation, it might even feel like delegation, but it's not delegation. It's task redistribution with a boomerang built in at the factory. And you feel it in your calendar, in your inbox, on WhatsApp, on Slack. At this rate, you'll be afraid to open the fridge because even from there, the moment you crack the door open, the same quick question will fly right at you. And everyone around you feels it too. Your team knows that the real answer still lives in your head. Your VPs know that their ownership is temporary until you review it. Your new senior hire knows they can't commit to anything because sooner or later, someone will say, better check with the boss. And here's the key point. Your team genuinely believes that this is exactly what you want from them, because every time someone asked, would you rather I just decide? You replied, you know what, let me just take a quick look. And that's how management becomes a competitive sport of throwing boomerangs. You throw things out, they fly back. And since you're here today, you've probably already worked out that this sport doesn't scale. So let's try to sort that out. The thing we've just described, the one that doesn't scale, let's give it a name. Delegation 1.0. It sounds like this. Here's the task. Here's roughly how I would do it. Let me know when it's done. It feels fast, intuitive, efficient, especially because it worked perfectly well when your team was 10 people, mostly specialists, all sitting at one table. The problem starts the moment your company grows to around 30, maybe 50 people. Why? Because Delegation 1.0 hands off execution, but keeps all the thinking in your head. Let's zoom out to see it clearly. At 10 people, the number of interdependencies is tiny. You can hold the whole company in your working memory. At 20, that number has probably tripled. Still manageable. But at 100? At 200? Every decision touches 5 others. Every task has 3 hidden constraints. Every change means you have to change something in several other places or everything falls apart. As you'd expect, the number of interdependencies is not linear. It grows exponentially. And when people don't have enough information to make decisions on their own, what do? Exactly, they come back to you. They do most of the legwork, but it's you who makes the calls. You sign off the final version. You remove the blockers. You define what good means. You correct the course when it isn't good. You catch mistakes. And you catch a lot of them. Not because your people are incompetent, but because they're blindfolded. Navigating a maze that only you have the map for, in your head. Delegation to zero is a completely different thing. It's not handing off tasks, it's handing off decisions. It's not, here's the task, here's how to do it, but here's the problem, here's the business context, here's the outcome we need, here are the constraints to work within. Solve it in a way that works. Delegation to zero transfers not just work, but also the context, intent, constraints, success criteria, and the authority to decide. Delegation 1.0 says, build this feature. Delegation 2.0 says, this quarter we need to put more emphasis on payment partner integrations because their absence is the most common blocker when closing larger clients. The goal is, by the end of the quarter, sales should be able to offer ready-built integrations with partner X, Y, and Z. We can allocate up to 20% of engineering hours to this. I want base integration only. Extras only if time allows. Please update the roadmap accordingly. Sounds different, doesn't it? Delegation 1.0 creates executors. Delegation 2.0 creates leaders. Delegation 1.0 seems faster for you and for now. Unfortunately, only for you and only now. Delegation 2.0 is faster for your company in the long run. And yes, Delegation 1.0 gives you that comfortable illusion that you have everything under control. Delegation 2.0 tends to be terrifying at first for almost everyone. It feels like it's consuming an enormous amount of time, and time is the one thing you never have enough of. It's a bit like teaching someone to cook instead of just microwaving something yourself. The good news is that feeling only lasts at the start. It passes. Think of it as an investment. At the beginning, you sit down and explain everything that meaningfully affects the topic. But there comes a day, sooner than you'd expect, when you notice that all those boomerangs have simply stopped coming back. The quick questions stop raining down from every direction, and you finally have time to look at your business strategically. That's when the investment starts to pay off. And that's when real scaling can finally begin. Delegating to zero isn't magic. It isn't a talent. It isn't trusting people more or letting go emotionally, or any of the other vague advice you may have heard. It's a system. A simple one. You know the concept of MVP, right? Minimum viable product. Not the final polished version, just the essential minimum that lets you get the first version to the market. The delegation system I'm about to describe works the exact same way. Think of it as minimum viable information. Its goal is to identify the minimum amount of information you need to transfer to people so they can fully understand what you actually expect from them. That system is called CIBS. And once you start using it, things stop boomeranging back because people finally understand what you actually need. So let's break it down. C stands for context. Most founders skip this part because, oh, come on, isn't it obvious? Well, for you, yes. For them, not necessarily. Context is the explanation of why what you're asking matters, how it affects the business, and what circumstances outside their scope might significantly influence what you're asking them to do. Without context, people make decisions that may feel sound technically, but strategically can be disastrous. Context is the element that lets people connect the same dots you connect intuitively. And once they connect them, they stop operating blind. I stands for intent, the purpose behind the task. It's not do X, but the outcome we need to achieve is Y. Intent lets people choose the right method even when the situation changes. And in young companies, change is probably the only constant. You no longer have to lead anyone by the hand. Knowing the goal and understanding the context, people will choose the tools and methods appropriate to whatever conditions they find along the way. It's exactly this, defining intent that turns your team from executors of instructions into people who think independently and solve problems. B stands for boundaries. Defining boundaries is the element that makes delegation to zero safe. They define the space your team can move in without your intervention, and conversely, the situations where they should come back for your go-ahead. This can include budget, time, available resources, stakeholders you don't want surprised, risks that matter, and hard do not touch this without calling me zones. Boundaries aren't micromanagement. Think of them as guardrails. Thanks to them, you can comfortably doze off in the passenger seat while someone else drives your car. S stands for success criteria, one of the most underused tools in management. Success criteria define what the definition of done looks like, what good means, what acceptable means, what this is no good by any means looks like. When people have clarity on these definitions, they stop pinging you with those questions, is it okay? They can finally land the plane without asking you permission every time they touch a button. CIBS isn't about writing long briefs. It's about removing the essential ambiguity. The difference between can you sort out the Q3 roadmap and delegating it the CIBS way is exactly what you heard just a moment ago. That is CIBS in action. That is delegation to zero. And that's all it takes to stop being the air traffic controller on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and start building a system where flights run safely without your constant presence. At this point, many founders ask, but how am I supposed to give them all of that context and intent if I'm not sure of half of it myself? If that question is circling in your head too, don't worry, we'll get there in the next episodes of Founder to Zero. For now, let's stay with delegation a little longer. You now know how to delegate so rapid growth stops feeling like a freefall. Now let's talk about how to make sure that feeling of control doesn't just last a moment but sticks around. Here's the question every founder asks quietly. How do I stay informed without becoming, that micromanaging CEO? Good news is there's a simple system for that too. Just one sentence. How would you like to keep me updated? That's it. Because when they choose the update rhythm, weekly, twice a week, milestone-based, or I'll tell you only if something goes off track, 3 things happen. First, they take ownership. They define the boundaries and signal that they're driving. Second, you stop guessing. No need to ping them at 9 p.m. just to check. You know when you'll hear about the progress. And third, the relationship shifts. It's no longer supervision, it's partnership. If you say, I want an update every Wednesday at 3 p.m., that's control. That creates pressure. But if they say, I'll keep you updated every Wednesday at 3 p.m., that is ownership. One feels like pressure, the other feels like trust. And trust, structured trust, is what makes delegation to zero actually work. In theory, delegation to zero looks very simple, doesn't it? Just 4 pieces of information to transfer and one simple question about the update rhythm. But what about in practice? If I asked you right now, when are you planning to implement delegation to zero? What would you say? Once we close the quarter? When things calm down a bit? Once we finally hired that new director? After we ship that new software version? I know, I've been there too. Let's look at that resistance a little more closely. That resistance to changing the way you delegate doesn't come from delegation being complicated. You've seen it. It isn't complicated. It doesn't come from you being controlling or bad at leadership either. None of that. Delegation to zero triggers resistance because your brain has been trained for years to associate your direct involvement with the survival of your business. In the early days, it wasn't a metaphor. It was literally true. A customer churns, either you fix it or it's over. A bug hits production. Either you patch it at 2 a.m. or it's over. A deal slips. Either you pick up the phone personally or it's over. Your nervous system absorbed this pattern so deeply that stepping back now isn't just mild discomfort. It often feels like genuine danger because you still remember the years when one mistake could bring the whole company down. So it's no wonder that at the mere thought of letting go of even part of the control, you feel resistance. That resistance isn't a sign of weakness. It just means you're growing. Growth always feels a bit like stepping off a ledge. There was research done on people who literally step off ledges. Soldiers, special forces operatives, athletes. You'd think the bravest ones feel the least fear. The data says the opposite. The bravest feel enormous fear. They just don't obey it. They treat it as a signal to be careful, not a stop sign. They act with it. They move forward anyway, because courage isn't absence of fear. Courage is fear with forward motion. So let's take a step further. Shall we jump off a ledge? Right now. Trust me, there is ground beneath you, just not necessarily where it used to be. Here's your challenge for this week. Pick one thing you're still holding on to that genuinely shouldn't be on your plate anymore. Not necessarily something enormous, but something that actually takes your time. Maybe something you've already tried to hand off, but it came back like a boomerang. And now, step 1. Choose the owner. Not someone who's already done it multiple times and ended up back at square one each time, but someone who, given the right information and resources, could genuinely run with it. Step 2. Have a CIBS conversation with them. Talk about context, intent, boundaries, and success criteria. But not a wall of text in an email. Not a voice note recorded on the run. An actual conversation, one-on-one, with space for questions. Step 3. Agree on when they'll update you, but not let me know if anything comes up. Ask them, when would you like to update me? And then set a specific time for the next check-in. Step 4. Here is the hard part. Leave that person alone. Don't interfere. Don't hover. Don't rescue them before they've even stumbled. Don't wonder how it's going. Just let them work. You will feel the urge to step in. That urge isn't wisdom. It's withdrawal. Notice it's there. Take a breath. And don't act on it. Just let it go. Step 5. When the update day comes, check, did the boomerang fly back to you in the meantime? Or did it land on their desk and stay there? Both outcomes are progress. Both are useful data because the goal for this week isn't perfection. The goal is a step in the right direction. So, good luck. Let me know in the comments how it went. In the next episode of Founder to Zero, we'll tackle something that most founders take far too long to address. Building a leadership team that actually takes the weight off, not just one that looks good on a slide. We'll talk about how to manage accountability, how to set clear rules of the game so that success never has many fathers, while failure is always an orphan. If you'd like to go deeper on Delegation to Zero, or you're curious how I work with founders one-on-one on making this shift happen, you'll find the contact link below this video. And if this episode was useful, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. It genuinely helps me make more content like this. That's it for today. Take care, and see you in the next episode.